Happy Labor Day! I got a ton of produce from my parents, so we have a lot of work to do today. I got this giant cabbage, also a red cabbage, some onions, some zucchini, some rhubarb, a bunch of tomatoes, some sweet corn, and we're gonna get started on the zucchini first. I'm gonna make some zucchini bread. So I started just by using my grater to grate all the zucchini. I have way more zucchini than I need for zucchini bread, so I'm gonna freeze the rest. So you have to put the zucchini into like some kind of like cheesecloth or towel. This is just like a clean cotton towel. And then you have to squeeze all the water out because there's a ton. That was all the water just from like one zucchini. So I started by spraying my 8x4 bread pan. I'm going to add in all of my ingredients. I will put all of the recipes that I do in this video in the description box so you can see the actual written recipes where I got them from. So I'm going to blend everything together. Add in my flour. And then add in my zucchini. Pour it into my bread pan. And I'm going to pop this in the oven at 350. That's what it looks like. For 1 hour. And I'm going to do a little cleanup. I basically have to clean up a little bit after each little project here. Otherwise the dishes really add up. Now I'm going to put the rest of my zucchini into a freezer bag. I will be investing in a vacuum sealer at some point, but I'll just have to make sure to use this before it gets freezer burned since I don't have a vacuum sealer yet. Nice and flat to go in the freezer, and we're going to start on the rhubarb. So I'm going to be making a strawberry rhubarb crisp, and again I will put the link to the recipe in the description box. Basically just cutting everything up into about 1/2 inch pieces. I'm using a 9x13 cake pan. I'm going to cut up my strawberries, just cutting the tops off and then slicing them up. I did need 4 cups of rhubarb and 4 cups of strawberries for this particular recipe, and I happen to have the perfect amount of strawberries that I needed to use up anyway, so it worked out really well. Adding my rhubarb to my strawberry slices. Kind of mixing everything up. I'm adding my sugar and my cornstarch. And just enough. I'm just kind of mixing everything up. If I see like a clump of sugar, I'm just kind of breaking those clumps up so everything is evenly distributed. Now I'm making my crumble. So I'm putting all my ingredients together, mixing everything up, and then adding my melted butter. And it ends up being like a pretty crumbly texture, which is what you want. And I'm just spreading this over the top. Just kind of spreading everything around to make it even. By the time I finished this, my zucchini bread was ready and looking beautiful. I did put a knife in the middle of that to make sure it was done. And I'm popping in my strawberry rhubarb crisp. I did have a little bit of rhubarb left, but not enough to make another one. So I'm just gonna save this in the freezer until I can get some more. And another round of dishes. It never ends. And my giant cabbage. So I'm gonna spray this off. There was some like bad pieces on the outside, but it was just the first couple of layers and everything inside was fine. So I just kind of took off the bad parts and then cut off any other bad parts that I couldn't use. So I'm gonna be making coleslaw with this, and the recipe did call for bags of coleslaw mix, but I just used my white cabbage and red cabbage. I did half and half, and I used my food scale to measure out the right amount of ounces to be the equivalent of the bags of coleslaw mix. I like to mention whenever I'm doing a day of a lot of cooking and food preserving, I like to have my garbage can like right next to me, and then I'm not going back and forth all the time. So I cut it up pretty small, and then I have my bowl over there on the food scale so I can see how much I need of each kind. You could add some shredded carrot to this too, I just didn't have any. This was way more cabbage than I needed, so I will be making this again in the future. I'll just freeze the rest of what I have so that I have it ready for next time. Now for my sauce, I'm gonna add my mayonnaise. Some white vinegar. And some seasonings. Mix everything up. And then I folded in the cabbage. And it says to keep it in the fridge for at least 2 hours, so I popped that in the fridge to try a little bit later. And we needed to try the zucchini bread. It was cooled off. So good. So I like to add butter on mine, so I cut a piece for my husband and myself and my daughter. I put some butter on it. And I had to do a little taste test. It was so good. I love it. And then my rhubarb strawberry crisp was all done, looking beautiful and smelling amazing. So I started on my corn. Now, I'm not making a recipe with this, I just need to use it, so I am going to just boil it and prepare it so that I can freeze it, so then I can use it in a recipe in the future. So I started by husking them. Then I don't know why I was cutting them in half, because this was way more difficult, and then I realized, oh, I can just break it in half way easier. So I started a pot of water boiling and then added the corn. And then I covered it so it could come back to a boil. I only had to boil it for about 10 minutes. So now I started on my salsa that I'm going to be making. So I cut up all of my tomatoes. I needed 8 cups for this particular recipe, which ended up making 6 quart jars. I'm sorry, 6 pint jars. Again, I'll put the links in the description, so if you want to make any of these recipes, you can see them there. This was a combination of a couple different kinds of tomatoes. There were quite a few cherry tomatoes in there. My corn was ready, so I took that out so it could cool a little bit. And back to the tomatoes. After all this, I will be investing in a vegetable dicer thing that you don't have to manually cut everything. That would be so much easier. But as of now, I don't have one yet. So I have all my tomatoes, and the corn was cooled down, so I started cutting the kernels off of that. And it's just going into a freezer bag right away. I already had these white onions diced up from something else, so I saved some time there. Diced up my green peppers. Now I learned from last time I cut jalapenos that I need to be wearing gloves for this. If you've seen my TikTok on this, it was really bad. I touched my nose after I was dealing with the jalapeno seeds, and it was just not fun. So I learned my lesson. I'm wearing gloves this time. I left some seeds in here because I wanted it to be a little bit more spicy, but I don't know how spicy it actually ended up being. Cutting up some cilantro. We absolutely love cilantro. If you're one of the people that think it tastes like soap, I am so sorry. And then my seasonings. I had to put it into my canning pot because this is the only thing I had that was big enough. Called for some tomato sauce. And our vinegar. Give everything a little bit of a mix, and then I popped it on the stove to get up to a simmer. And some more dishes. Surprise, surprise. Give that a stir. And it says to let this simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. So I worked on cutting up the rest of my cabbage to freeze. And I tasted my coleslaw, and it was really good. I'll definitely be making that again. I'm putting my jars into the oven at 180 degrees just so they can get warm. You don't want to put a hot liquid into a cold jar into the canner because the temperature change can make your jars crack. I still can't believe how big this cabbage was. And I started filling my jars with my salsa. And this called for 1/2 inch of headspace. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on this, I can definitely do that because I will be doing another batch in the future. I'm pretty new to canning, but I've been getting the hang of it pretty quickly and I'm really enjoying it. Pop my jar into the canner. I ended up doing a total of 6 pints of salsa. And once they were done, I pulled them out of the canner to cool. and they'll sit there for 24 hours till I can check the seal and make sure they're good to go. Here's my beautiful salsa. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Have a good day.